The voice memo that shook the NBA. One awkward voicemail may have opened the door to the wildest partnership in basketball, LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio. NBA fans expected polished recruiting pitches and controlled leaks. Instead, they got Luke Kornet, a backup center with a microphone, a sense of humor, and no fear. In a voice memo addressed directly to LeBron, Kornet did not sound like an agent or executive. He sounded like a teammate already trying to make room for the king. He talked about young talent, no state income tax, great food, SeaWorld, and even offered LeBron a guest room. It was strange, funny, and almost impossible to take seriously. Then Kornet said the one thing that changed the entire conversation. Come to San Antonio, and you get to play beside a generational player. Then, with perfect timing, he added Victor Wembanyama too. That line made the clip explode, but underneath the joke was a real basketball message. The Spurs are not selling LeBron a rebuild. They are selling him a chance to join one of the most gifted young stars the league has ever seen, steady a rising contender, and chase one final championship before the curtain closes on his career. The timing makes it even more dramatic. LeBron is choosing the final chapter of his legacy. Every roster fit matters. Every title opportunity could be the last one. San Antonio may not be the loudest market, and Kornet may not be the biggest name. But in one viral moment, a backup center forced the entire NBA to picture the same scene. LeBron throwing lobs to Wemby, Wemby protecting the rim behind him, and two generations of greatness chasing one ring together. Was it only a joke? Or did Kornet accidentally reveal the most dangerous free agency idea of the summer? Where are you watching from? Comment your city below, subscribe to the channel, and press 1 if you want the story to continue, or 2 if you want to stop here. Kornet's wild pitch to the king. Luke Kornet's message did not sound like the work of a billion-dollar franchise. It sounded like a nervous teammate trying to convince the most famous player in basketball to visit for the weekend. He opened carefully, called him Mr. James, then immediately lost the rhythm. He reminded LeBron that they had argued on the court before, as if that awkward memory were the perfect opening. Then Kornet started selling San Antonio one detail at a time. He mentioned young talent, a relaxed lifestyle, no state income tax, great food, SeaWorld, and finally the most unexpected offer of all, a guest room inside Kornet's home while LeBron figured out his future. But Kornet understood something important. Every other team could promise money, fame, and championship expectations. San Antonio needed a different angle. The Spurs had to feel personal, like a place where LeBron could arrive without carrying the entire franchise alone. Then Kornet delivered the real pitch. LeBron could play beside a generational talent. Kornet jokingly referred to himself first, then casually included Victor Wembanyama, as if the most terrifying young player in basketball were only an extra benefit. That joke was the bait. Wembanyama was the message. Behind the humor was a simple truth. LeBron would not be joining a team hoping to become relevant. He would join a roster built around a player capable of changing both ends of the floor. Wemby could protect the paint, stretch defenses, finish above the rim, and erase mistakes that would punish almost any other team. Kornet's pitch sounded ridiculous because it was not polished. But maybe that was why people listened. It felt less like corporate recruiting and more like a teammate saying what everyone in San Antonio was already thinking. Come here, play with Wemby, chase one more championship. Let the strangest voicemail of the offseason become the beginning of something real. When the joke became a real NBA story, at first, the NBA treated the voice memo like a comedy clip. Then the laughter turned into analysis. Within hours, the recording spread across social media, podcasts, and television. Fans mocked Kornet's awkward opening, the SeaWorld pitch, and the offer of a guest room. But every replay repeated the same two names, LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama. That was when the joke became valuable. Kornet had done what expensive marketing campaigns often fail to do. He created an image people could not stop discussing. Fans were suddenly building lineups, imagining playoff matchups, debating contracts, and asking whether San Antonio might actually be the smartest destination for LeBron. The timing made the story impossible to ignore. LeBron's future appeared uncertain, and several contenders wanted into the conversation. The Spurs had youth, length, speed, and a superstar whose ceiling seemed impossible to define. What they lacked was late-game control, championship experience, and a veteran voice capable of calming a young roster when every possession tightened. LeBron could provide all three. The memo also created a mystery. Was Kornet acting alone? Did anyone inside the organization encourage him? Was this satire? Or was he saying publicly what the front office could not yet say officially? No evidence proved San Antonio had launched a formal campaign. But that uncertainty made the story stronger. NBA drama grows fastest when facts, jokes, and possibility overlap. Kornet may have intended to entertain, but his message placed the Spurs inside the offseason spotlight. Whenever another LeBron destination was discussed, San Antonio now appeared beside it as the dangerous dark horse nobody wanted to dismiss. One recording turned an unlikely pairing into a serious thought experiment. And once the league imagined LeBron and Wemby together, it became almost impossible to erase the picture. The backup center who would not stay invisible. Luke Kornet was never supposed to become the center of an NBA free agency storm. He was not a superstar, famous agent, or powerful executive. He entered the league without being drafted and survived by accepting a role that rarely produces headlines. Set screens. Protect the rim. Rebound. Keep the second unit organized. Stay ready when the star center needs rest. Kornet refused to stay quiet. His unusual personality, dry humor, and willingness to write publicly gave him influence that did not match his box score numbers. He understood that visibility in the modern NBA does not come only from scoring 30 points. Sometimes it comes from saying the one thing nobody expects a role player to say. That pattern followed him onto the court. During a pressure-filled playoff moment, Kornet produced a chase-down block that reminded fans of one of LeBron's most iconic defensive plays. The comparison was exaggerated, and Kornet knew it. Instead of rejecting the joke, he acted as if history might someday debate which block mattered more. That self-awareness became part of his appeal. He was serious enough to compete, but funny enough to understand his place in the story. He could turn a backup center moment into a league-wide conversation because he sounded like someone enjoying the absurdity of professional basketball. That is why his LeBron memo landed differently from an ordinary social media joke. Kornet had built a reputation for using his voice in ways that attracted attention. People knew that even when he was joking, his words could travel farther than expected. Now, he was using that influence to recruit one of the greatest players ever. The irony was perfect. A player who spent most of his career supporting stars was suddenly trying to shape where the biggest star would finish his career. Kornet could not offer LeBron a max contract. What he could offer was personality, noise, LeBron's final career decision. For LeBron James, choosing another team would not be a normal free agency decision. It would determine how basketball remembers the final chapter of his career. Every earlier move carried a purpose. Miami represented championships. Cleveland represented redemption. Los Angeles represented legacy, family, business, and another title under the brightest spotlight. The next move feels different because time is no longer unlimited. LeBron would not simply choose where to play. He would choose which risk is worth taking when there may not be another opportunity to correct the decision. A veteran contender could offer stability, but possibly a smaller role. A familiar destination could offer emotion, but not necessarily the strongest title path. San Antonio would offer something more unusual, a chance to become the bridge between eras. Wembanyama does not need LeBron to make him famous. He already looks like the league's future, but he could benefit from the knowledge LeBron has collected through playoff wars, finals pressure, roster changes, media storms, and impossible expectations. LeBron would not need to dominate every possession. He could conserve energy, organize the offense, attack favorable matchups, and become the veteran decision maker beside a younger superstar capable of carrying the heaviest physical burden. Still, the emotional cost would be real. Joining Wemby would mean accepting that the future no longer belongs to LeBron. He would remain the most famous player in the building, but the franchise would ultimately belong to the 7'4" phenomenon expected to rule the next decade. Instead of fighting the next generation, LeBron could guide it. Instead of chasing another title as the center of everything, he could become the piece that completes someone else's ride. Does he want the final chapter to prove he can still carry a team, or to show that true greatness also knows when to share the weight? Why San Antonio actually makes sense. Remove the jokes, viral reactions, and guest room offer, and San Antonio still has a serious basketball case. The Spurs have the one asset every aging superstar wants beside him. A young franchise player capable of dominating without forcing a veteran to carry the entire season. Victor Wembanyama changes games before touching the ball. His size alters driving lanes, his reach erases mistakes, and his shooting range pulls defenders away from the paint. That gives LeBron something he rarely has this late in his career: freedom. He would not need to create every advantage. Wemby's presence already bends the defense. Pick and roll actions between them could force impossible choices. Switch a smaller defender onto Wembanyama, and LeBron feeds him near the rim. Drop the center, and LeBron controls the middle. Send help, and San Antonio shooters receive open looks. LeBron should not chase elite scorers for 40 minutes. Playing behind Wembanyama would allow him to conserve energy, defend smarter, and trust that an intimidating rim protector was waiting behind him. The Spurs also need what LeBron still provides. Their young roster can run, defend, and overwhelm teams with talent, but postseason basketball punishes inexperience. Late in games, possessions slow down. Young players rush decisions. One poor minute can erase 3/4 of excellent work. LeBron has spent his career controlling those moments. He can identify mismatches, settle teammates, manipulate tempo, and create a quality shot when a possession collapses. Those skills depend on memory, timing, and an understanding of pressure that younger players cannot learn overnight. This would not be a farewell tour built around ceremonies. It would be a strategic partnership. The Spurs gain leadership and late-game control. LeBron gains protection, youth, and a realistic path to another championship. The market may be smaller, but the basketball opportunity could be larger than almost anywhere else. LeBron and Wemby, basketball's ultimate partnership. The image alone would stop the league. LeBron James, the defining superstar of one generation, standing beside Victor Wembanyama, the player many believe could define the next. On offense, their partnership could create a problem with no clean solution. LeBron remains one of basketball's smartest passers. Wembanyama offers a target almost no defender can reach. Every transition possession could become a race toward the rim, with LeBron delivering passes above the defense and Wemby finishing where ordinary players cannot. In the half court, the possibilities become even more dangerous. LeBron could organize the offense while Wembanyama screens, slips, pops, or attacks from the weak side. If defenders collapse on LeBron, Wemby receives space. If they stay attached to Wemby, LeBron gets a path toward the paint. If opponents switch, San Antonio can punish whichever mismatch appears. The partnership would give both stars something they need. Wembanyama would gain a mentor who has seen every defensive coverage, survived every media cycle, and learned how to carry championship expectations without allowing them to destroy a locker room. LeBron would gain a younger superstar capable of covering enormous defensive ground and absorbing the physical workload that becomes harder with age. Young teams often believe talent will solve every problem. Veterans know titles are decided by discipline. One correct rotation, one controlled possession, one extra pass, one moment when emotion must be replaced by patience. LeBron could teach that language in real time. Their roles would need to be clear. Coaches would have to protect the future while respecting the past, and that tension could sharpen both stars. LeBron has the experience Wemby has not earned yet. Wemby has the physical dominance LeBron can no longer summon every night. Together, they would represent basketball's past and future meeting at exactly the right moment, each helping the other create something history would never forget. The money problem nobody can ignore. The basketball dream is easy to understand. The financial reality is where everything becomes dangerous. LeBron James joining San Antonio would not be as simple as signing a contract and walking into training camp. The Spurs already have major commitments across the roster, and the NBA's salary cap rules make every superstar move a puzzle involving contracts, exceptions, matching salaries, and long-term consequences. That means somebody would have to sacrifice. The first possibility is LeBron himself. If winning one more championship matters more than maximizing his final contract, he could accept a significant discount. That would immediately make San Antonio more realistic, but it would also send a powerful message across the league. LeBron has spent his entire career understanding his market value. Taking less money would mean he believes this opportunity is different from every ordinary free agency offer. It would mean he sees Wembanyama as more than a talented teammate. He sees him as the final piece of a championship path. But even a discount may not solve everything. San Antonio could still need to clear salary, move veterans, or construct a sign and trade with LeBron's former team. That is where the decisions become painful. The Spurs cannot destroy the depth that helped make them competitive just to add one famous name. They must protect Wembanyama's future while also taking advantage of the present. Young players could be included in a deal. Draft picks might have to move. Reliable rotation pieces could be sacrificed. Every outgoing player would change the lineup. LeBron is supposedly joining, which creates an uncomfortable contradiction. The more San Antonio gives up to acquire him, the less complete the roster may become after he arrives. Then there is Luke Kornet. The same player who recorded the message inviting LeBron to San Antonio could become part of the salary package needed to make the move possible. Kornet could create the recruiting campaign, watch it go viral, and then lose his own roster spot because it worked too well. That kind of irony feels almost scripted, but championship windows often demand cold decisions. The Spurs must ask themselves how much one final push is worth. LeBron must decide whether another ring is worth walking away from a larger payday. Wembanyama must trust that the organization will strengthen the roster without sacrificing the future built around him. This is no longer about SeaWorld, guest rooms, or a funny voicemail. It is about whether three sides are willing to give up something valuable for the chance to create something historic. Three possible endings. There are three ways this story can end. and each one would completely change how Luke Kornet's voice memo is remembered. The first ending is the one San Antonio fans cannot stop imagining. LeBron accepts the challenge. He takes less money, the Spurs find a workable financial path, and the most experienced superstar of his generation joins the most frightening young talent in basketball. The reaction would be immediate. Every national television schedule would change. Ticket prices would explode. Every practice clip would become a headline. Fans would study every possession, searching for signs that the partnership could deliver what San Antonio came so close to achieving before. On the court, the pressure would be enormous. Anything short of a championship would feel disappointing. LeBron would be expected to solve San Antonio's late-game problems. Wembanyama would be expected to take another massive step. The coaching staff would have to balance LeBron's experience with Wemby's growing authority. If they succeeded, the story would become legendary. LeBron could win his final title beside the player inheriting the league. Wembanyama could earn his first championship while learning directly from someone who has survived every level of NBA pressure. And Kornet's awkward message would become the most unlikely recruiting pitch ever to help create a champion. The second ending is far more conventional. LeBron chooses a franchise with a more experienced roster, a cleaner financial situation, or a deeper personal connection. Cleveland could offer emotion. Golden State could offer another partnership between iconic veterans. Miami could offer familiarity. Other contenders could present a more immediate path with fewer complicated roster moves. In that version, San Antonio loses nothing essential. Wembanyama continues developing. The young core stays intact, and the Spurs remain positioned to compete for years. Kornet's memo becomes a hilarious offseason memory, not the first chapter of a championship story. The third ending may be the most realistic and the most frustrating. Nothing happens quickly. LeBron continues waiting. Teams preserve cap space. Rumors multiply. Anonymous reports contradict one another. San Antonio remains connected to the conversation without ever making a formal offer strong enough to force a decision. The possibility stays alive because nobody officially kills it. That kind of uncertainty can last for weeks. Fans turn every social media post into evidence. A dinner becomes a meeting. A flight becomes a secret visit. A harmless comment becomes a clue about LeBron's future. Eventually, the market may move without San Antonio. Another team could make the first serious offer. Or the Spurs could decide that protecting their young roster is more important than chasing a short-term opportunity. But even if LeBron never wears a Spurs jersey, Kornet already changed the conversation. Before the memo, San Antonio looked like a distant possibility. After it, fans and analysts were forced to admit that the basketball fit made sense. The final decision belongs to LeBron, but the idea now belongs to the entire NBA. Legacy, sacrifice, and one last championship run. This story began with a joke, but it ends with a question about legacy. What does a superstar owe the final chapter of his career? LeBron James has already accomplished nearly everything basketball can offer. Championships, records, awards, unforgettable playoff performances, and more than 2 decades as the center of the sport's biggest conversations. He does not need San Antonio to prove that he is great. But greatness is not always measured by what a player still needs to prove. Sometimes it is measured by what he chooses to build before he leaves. Joining Victor Wembanyama would represent something larger than another free agency move. It would connect 2 generations of basketball in the same uniform. LeBron would bring the knowledge of countless playoff battles. Wembanyama would bring the physical dominance, defensive range, and limitless potential of a player beginning his rise. Strategically, their partnership could solve major problems for both sides. The Spurs need composure, decision-making, and leadership when games slow down. LeBron needs a younger superstar capable of carrying the physical demands he can no longer handle every night. Wembanyama could protect LeBron defensively. LeBron could protect Wembanyama from the mental pressure of leading a contender before he has fully learned how to manage it. But the partnership would only work through sacrifice. LeBron would have to accept that this would eventually become Wembanyama's team. Wemby would have to listen without feeling overshadowed. The coaching staff would have to respect LeBron's experience while protecting the authority of the franchise's future. San Antonio's front office would need to avoid the mistake that destroys many young contenders, sacrificing too much of tomorrow, because the possibility of winning today becomes irresistible. That is the strategic lesson. A championship move must strengthen the team, not simply create the biggest headline. The human lesson is just as important. Real leadership is not about controlling every moment. It is about helping another person become stronger. Real confidence does not fear the next generation. It recognizes that experience and youth can work together without turning the relationship into a battle for attention. LeBron could teach Wembanyama how to survive expectations. Wemby could remind LeBron what it feels like to play beside someone whose best years are still waiting to happen. Whether the partnership becomes real or remains one of basketball's greatest hypothetical stories, the possibility reveals what makes the NBA so compelling. One unexpected message can create a vision. One roster decision can reshape a conference. One act of sacrifice can change how a career is remembered. Now, the final question belongs to the fans. Should LeBron choose San Antonio and chase one last championship beside Victor Wembanyama, or should he join a more experienced contender? Comment 1 if you believe LeBron and Wemby could win the championship together. Comment 2 if you think LeBron should choose another team. Tell us where you are watching from, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share this story with every NBA fan who wants to see two generations of greatness standing on the same court.